going to be starting on our SculptGL mask creation. So before we begin, I want to go over with you what the project criteria is. So you can see it here. The creature needs to include eyes, nose, mouth, and a minimum of one other detail like ears, horns, or fins, or something else. We want to try and add texture in one or more areas to help create interest. We are going to write a statement to explain our creature design. Make sure that you include details and dimension to at least 3 sides so that it's interesting to look at from multiple views. It should not just be a round sphere in the back and all the detail in the front. So as we're creating, we want to make sure our areas look like they have been smooth, refined, and they look purposeful and not like distorted due to not understanding the tools. And we're also going to use the paint feature, so we're going to try and use at least 3 or more different paint colors to draw attention to our designs and our details. And our colors should look thoughtfully placed in how we use them within our sculpt. Okay, so this is what I want you to keep in mind as we head into SculptGL. So we're going to go to the SculptGL website. You can find it in our modules. And we're going to start with the head shape. So right now we're focused more on the big dimensions that we need for our form and not the little details like the eyes and the mouth. As we get started, we want to make sure that we have symmetry checked. Most of the time, faces tend to be symmetrical or the same on either side of the center line. We are going to start with our brush tool. So if we look over here in sculpting and painting, we can see our brush tool is selected. Remember, our brush tool is what adds clay to our sphere that we're starting with here. So if I click and start to build up some clay right here, and I turn it from the side, you can see I've added some clay. Now, how far out it builds up depends on your intensity. So the more intense it is, and the larger your brush, the more clay and the bigger area you're going to be building out. So like if I wanted this to be kind of the forehead shape, I could start with like this V shape here. If I wanted it to also go up, I could build that up a little bit more here. I also want to give this kind of a snout. So this is going to be more of my forehead shape that I have going on. And if I wanted to, I could kind of bring my radius back down. So remember, the radius is how big the brush is. So the larger your radius over here, the bigger your brush. The smaller your number here, the smaller the brush size or the less clay that you're brushing on. The intensity is how much clay you're adding. So if I want this to be a little bit less intense, I can drop this back. So right now I want you to be thinking about what kind of head shape you want for the front of your sculpture here. So I'm kind of starting to build up some of this here, and I can even work from different views, right?
A goal for this project is to create a sculpture that is viewed in the round. So what this means is that the viewer wants to walk around your creature to see it from all angles, not just from the front view. So as you are sculpting today, make sure to click and drag and view your model from different angles and alter it from different angles.
And remember, if I want to get back to the front view, I can also click my space bar. So here's my front view, but I want to see more from the top, so I'm going to rotate this down. But if I take and kind of use my smooth tool here, you can see where I switch the directions with my brush. That's starting to disappear, and it's starting to kind of even this all out. If I turn it from this direction here, I can even use and smooth kind of where I was combining some of those items. So I've got kind of the start for the top half here. Now I need to start building up my nose and like the mouth area, so kind of the front jaw area. So I can go back in and use my brush a little bit more. So again, the bigger the brush, the more intense, the more clay. So this is one of the ways I can kind of build up some clay here for the snout. Let's see how far this is sticking out. So do you see how when I look at it from a different direction, it's starting to look more dimensional here? Okay, so I'm liking this, but I do want to build up a little bit of clay through there as well. If I turn it from different directions, I can use the flatten tool to kind of change the shape of the head. So again, if I want to make this a little bit bigger, so I can kind of work on changing the look. So you can use tools like flatten or drag or move to really alter the shape of the sphere. This will give your creature a more uniquely shaped head. If you are stuck trying to think of what to create, you can pull features from different animals that exist in our world. For example, you could use the inspiration of the nose of a pig on the face of a lion with the horns of a rhino. You can also think about where your creature might live. So for example, does your creature need an aerodynamic head shape? Or something that would help them to swim? Do you need more of like a fin shape? So something to keep in mind as you are starting to do your sculpt. Now one thing, you can see how I've started building up a little bit of clay here. I'm going to use the masking tool to help play that up a little bit more. So as you remember, we have the masking tool where we can select areas that we don't want to work on, or we can create a mask of where we only want to work. So to help these raised areas stand out even more, I'm going to apply a mask and then use the inverse of the mask and of the brush tool in order to remove clay in those areas. So something to keep in mind as you are sculpting, try to add areas where you carve away areas of the sphere. This will help to add even more dimension into your sculpture. Once you are done with your mask, remember to go back into the mask tool and select clear. A good habit to get into is to always take a moment to smooth after you use a tool. So here, now that I've done my carving, I take the smooth tool and kind of clean up the edges of the carving. I really wanted the creature to feel almost alien, so on the back side I chose to continue to repeat that carving that I did on the top to help it feel more a part of the same sculpture. So I repeated the process throughout the back side of the head. I also added some more volume to the top part. For this, you can use the brush tool to build up more clay, or you could also use the inflate tool, which is almost like you're inflating air into that area that you're using the brush tool over. So another thing you can do is the drag tool. So you can see I'm starting to grab areas of the clay and drag it outward. This can help to give your creature a much more interesting profile or top view. Something else to remember is that holding the Alt key while working, or Option key while working with any of the tools, will do the opposite. So for example, here with the brush tool in the eye area, I'm holding the Alt key and removing clay to create kind of the indentions where the eyes will eventually go. Once you are happy with the overall head shape, make sure to check it from each of the views, top, side, back, and then in the next video, I will show you how to start focusing on those smaller details like the eyes, the nose, the mouth of your creature.